Good evening. And welcome to everyone who's joining us on the internet. Last week I reminded all of you of the good news that you're all puppets. Serving one of two teachers, and there's no other choice. And I also made it clear to you that it was my purpose, as it is every time I'm with you, but more pointedly last time we were together, that my purpose was to undermine your self-confidence. You see, what you consider to be your greatest strengths are actually your greatest weaknesses. Because whatever self-confidence you personally have in your personal private capacity to function well and to be an effective presence, whatever strengths you count yourself as having, reinforce your determination to do things by yourself. To do things by yourself means to be doing it solo, separate and apart, authoritative in your own right. And yet it's this determination and the enacting of that determination that keeps you from having the curiosity or even the experience of need necessary to ask the Holy Spirit for help. And what is the Holy Spirit? Nothing more than your right mind. So if you're determined not to connect with your right mind, it means you're determined to be unconscious of what you are and what everything is. You're determined to define everything yourself and live according to your make-believe world. Now, how can that be described as anything but a weakness? To be unconscious of what you are and what everything is weakness. We talked about the fact that the key is, before you respond to anything, hesitate and ask of the Holy Spirit. What is the meaning of this? What is appropriate here? You see, you break the isolation and you break the arrogant self-determination and you leave yourself open for an experience other than the ones you've had in the past, and a perspective different from what you say you have enjoyed in the past, and you lay the groundwork for, or you provide the environment in which a shift of perception can occur. A shift of perception being what? A miracle. That's what you're all aiming for, or you wouldn't be with me each week. But it's easy to forget. The habit of independence The habit of self-confidence is strong. And not only that, you have incorporated into your make-believe self and world the idea that it's your purpose to improve your skills, to improve your capacity to function independently well. It is your purpose to do that, to secure your credibility, your integrity, your respectability. You see? So it's a hard habit to let go of, because you're so conditioned to think that the loss of your self-confidence and the loss of your capacity to behave independently will constitute a loss of integrity, a loss of all that's meaningful and important about existing for you. So it's not an easy habit to break, but it is a habit which must be broken if the ultimate good that all of you want is to become your conscious experience. You cannot use that which is a denial of all that is true about you as a means of getting to the experience of all that is true about you. And so I'm here to keep reminding you that the path you've been on is one that denies the possibility of arriving at the destination you have made up to be at the end of this path. So that you will do what? So that you'll hesitate. Maybe you won't take the next step on that path, taking you to the place that you didn't want to go. The path that won't take you where you do want to go. So that you can reconnoiter. That's what you're doing when you hesitate a moment and you say, Father, or you say, Holy Spirit. What's the truth here? You're reconnoitering. You're putting yourself in a position where a change of direction can occur. And if you're considering the possibility of a change of direction, you are weakening the commitment you've had to reach the destination you thought you could reach by determinedly moving forward on this road, this path that won't take you where you want to go. Now, I am with you at every single moment. You don't listen for me at every single moment, but I'm there. Even though you don't listen for me at every moment, you, through a constructive use of your memory, can remember to hesitate as often as possible during the course of each day, and express a little curiosity to see outside of the box, to see outside of the make-believe world you've made up, for alternatives that you can't possibly come up with through the use of your imagination. For alternatives that will free you from the suffering which is inseparable from your being on a road that leads to what you don't want, even though you believe it is going to lead you to the ultimate. So, the need is to hesitate and inquire. And why do you inquire? So that you can have a clearer perception yourself, unlike your poor neighbor? So that you can be clearer than somebody else? No. You ask because you have chosen to have an object of your affection, whether it is a tree or a plant or a brother or a sister. You have chosen to have an object of your affection, something or someone to whom you are willing to give an acknowledgement of their divinity, an acknowledgement of what they essentially are, separate and apart from what you have come to believe they are. And why do you do this? Because until you make a gift of the acknowledgement of what is true about a thing, it doesn't become yours. This is the exact opposite of the way the world works. I'm not talking about the world that you see when you look out. I'm talking about the world that all of you and everyone else has made up in your minds that you are serving, and in the process of serving that world of concepts, you are missing each other, and you are not recognizing the kingdom of heaven that you're right in the middle of. So, when you turn to the Holy Spirit to break the isolation, the reason you do it is to become aware of the truth about your world or your fellow man, so that you might extend your new awareness of what it is, so that you might be undefended against what you've made up about your world or your brothers and sisters, and actually connect with them, who they really are. So, you break the isolation in two ways. You break it by abandoning your self-confidence and asking of someone or something that has the larger picture to uncover the larger picture to you, to show it to you. So you've broken the isolation in that way. And then the fact that that's not all of it comes into play. You ask to know the truth so that you may extend the acknowledgement of what is true to an object of your affection, or we could say an object of your attention. And there you're breaking the isolation as well. You see, it's very simple. When you have imaginations about your brothers and sisters, when you've determined who and what they are, and what kind of person they are, you have isolated yourself from who they really are. You've made yourself very private. So when you're willing to see who they really are, you're abandoning and weakening that attempt to be autonomous and private as well. Now, all of this that I've been talking about comes under the heading of healing, the correction of false perception, the being healed of misunderstanding everything. and behaving as though your misunderstanding is true understanding, thus causing you to behave in a way totally inconsistent with what's really there, and arousing reaction, creating chaos. One of the key sentences last week was, the therapist, or we could say the healer, does not heal. He lets healing be. The Holy Spirit is the only therapist. He makes healing perfectly clear in any situation in which He is the guide. Again, be careful, because it's so easy to think that you are deferring to something better than you, something different from you. But all you're deferring to is that which is nothing more than your right mind, which you don't recognize as yours because you have for so long been entranced with the make-believe you and the make-believe world that you made up. The make-believe you can't heal a damn thing because it doesn't really exist as something that can do anything. So yes, you have to defer to the Holy Spirit. You have to reach out to that which seems not to be you. So that reintegration of your sense of identity with what you really are can occur. The human therapist can only let Him, the Holy Spirit, fulfill His function. See, that's what's so insulting to the ego. You got to let somebody else do the work and get the credit. But it will only seem as though something else is getting the credit while you have yourself misidentified in your own mind. But leaning into that which you don't recognize as yourself is the only way to escape your addiction to your misidentification. And so you must do it whether it feels natural to you or not. So, let's continue in the book. The awareness of the Holy Spirit. How can you become increasingly aware of the Holy Spirit in you except by His effects? Well, let's stop for a moment. You reach out to the Holy Spirit. You let the Holy Spirit fill you up until you are so full that it overflows and extends to your brother, and your brother is healed. Your brother is transformed. Your brother experiences a change in his experience. Because it hasn't felt like you have done anything, because of course you are still identifying with your misperception, even though you're reaching out to that which is the only real thing in you. The only way you can tell that you have done anything is by the effect of the movement of the Holy Spirit. The only way you can tell that you're on the right track is not because you can see directly a cause and effect relationship started by you and affecting your brother, but because a change has occurred that you can't take credit for, and yet you know you were inseparable from. It's sort of like being hooked up to equipment that can tell whether you're in an alpha state, a theta state, and so on. And it's hooked up to a little model railroad. And the more centered and at peace you become, the train begins to go around the track. It's going around the track because you're doing less and less. And the less you do, the faster it goes. And if you try to make it go, it will stop. And so, here it is, going around the track. You see the effect of what? Of your backing out of a place of authority, a supposed capacity to make things happen, and to move out of an aggressive frame of mind into your peace. And so as a result of your doing less and less, more and more happens. And because of the effect, and because of the fact that the wires are hooked up to you, you know you had something to do with it. You know that if indeed you wanted the train to go around and around, you were doing something right, even though the something right that you were doing was less and less of anything. The less you did, the less you do, the more it goes. So it's like a lesson in reverse. You learn that the only way to be truly effective is to abandon trying to be effective. And as you have that experience more and more, it becomes easier and easier to let nothing be done by you from an independent frame of mind, knowing that the less you do, the more will be done. As you let yourself have that experience, you begin to have a new experience of identity. What you begin to recognize as you is the absence of doing anything yourself, privately. And so the evidence of your being on the right track helps to provide you with a new source of the experience of your identity. In effect, the more consistently you let the Holy Spirit come through you, because you, as a personal authorizer, is doing less and less, the more opportunity you have to find out the real meaning, together with the real experience of being what you truly are. But you must let yourself into that place where something can happen that you can't take credit for, but because you're inseparable from it happening, you know that it must have something to do with you. It's just not the you, the authoritative you, the skillful you that you used to practice being and get your sense of identity from. How can you become increasingly aware of the Holy Spirit in you except by His effects? You cannot see Him with your eyes, nor hear Him with your ears. Mind you, this Him is nothing more than your right mind. How then can you perceive Him at all? If you inspire joy, and others react to you with joy, even though you are not experiencing joy yourself, there must be something in you that is capable of producing it. If it is in you and can produce joy, and if you see that it does produce joy in others, you must be dissociating it in yourself. Well, it isn't like dissociating it in yourself is some new experience caused by virtue of your doing something right and the train goes around the track. What it amounts to is that if you are letting the Holy Spirit be through you, and there are blessings that you see are experienced by others, that you know you were part of, even though you weren't the originator of the movement of the joy that's experienced. You, by virtue of what you have done and seen, should be having the experience of what was given being made your own. And if you're not, it's because you are dissociating all of it from you. Again, this isn't something new, but when it happens, you are in a position of being able to clearly see the dynamic. You've been dissociated all along. Now, dissociated, oh, a psychological word, what isn't that? You know, what does that mean? Well, we'll take Paul as an example. Poor Paul. He has devoted 23 years of his life to let the Holy Spirit speak, to let it come through him. And when he does, he's not in any state of tension, any state of confusion, any experience of unworthiness, and yet, by the same token, any worth that's there, any clarity that's there, is nothing he can take credit for as the private, separate, independent Paul that he thought he was as he was growing up. But just wait until after the gathering is over. And he puts me on the back shelf, which means he stops listening. He stops. He abandons the joining. And now Paul says, wow. Oh, he looks around at those who listen to me when he's letting me speak. And he says, damn, they don't seem to be learning anything. Oh, well, you see, there's the dissociation right there. The dissociation is that he left the place of being joined to have thoughts of his own. That's what the dissociation is. So now there's Paul on Sunday nights. And there's Paul every other month on the internet.